Alright, ladies and gentlemen, you're probably wondering where's that crunchy tune coming from? It's from the Guardians of the Galaxy game official soundtrack. That's right, in this video game, Starlord is a band, Peter Quill's favorite band, that he named himself after when he was on his space exploration and adventures. This soundtrack is all original Starlord music plus some original themes, and all the Starlord soundtrack is written by my buddy Steve Szczepkowski. Oh yeah! And he's the co-writer of the Starlord songs, and you can hear him singing these Starlord songs. Did I master your last name? I was worried.
It. We're going to make you like an official Polish person, you know. You'll be able to get free pierogies at any restaurant in Montreal going forward from now on.
Ryan Stick Show. It's the Ryan Stick Show. Ryan Stick Show. It's the Ryan Stick Show.
Dude, this game's amazing.
Thank you.
More importantly, the music is amazing. And music and Guardians of the Galaxy, even in this film franchise, has been synonymous with each other and very important. But I'm also thrilled that they didn't just recycle movie songs. I mean, they really went for their own tone with this game, and you are largely responsible for this. Tell me all about getting hired to work on this incredible game.
Well, basically, we've been myself and the creative core team, the narrative director, Mary DeMarle, JF Dugas, the creative director, and even Bruno Gauthier-Leblanc, the art director. We've all been working together on the same team for a few projects now. We did Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. So this became the project that was sort of fell into our lap. And of course, being a music guy all my life, I mean, I couldn't have been happier. I was like, wow, you know, what an amazing break. So again, you want to see and hope that the producers and the senior sort of the guys who do the money management and all that are going to get behind what I'm pitching, which was, you know, we need to have licensed music in this game. We can't do a Guardians game without it. And of course, you know, JF, the creative director, was behind that as well. And I didn't meet any resistance. Like, they were like, yeah, okay, you know, like we'll put aside a budget and that's what you have to work with.
When was it decided that Starlord, which in this game is amazing because Starlord was Peter Quill's favorite band growing up, which makes sense to me because every time they said the name Starlord, I'm like, that seems like the type of name that would be painted on the side of a van with a half naked trick, riding a dragon,
riding a dragon
in space. But when was it decided that, hey, not only is Starlord a band, but we need original music, and we know just the guy?
It was probably a year in, or somewhere to that point.
That long?
Maybe 6 months to a year. Because I mean, you know, they spent so much time just fleshing out the story and getting all of that and the gameplay elements. So, somewhere in that 6 months to a year beginning, and then from there we spoke about it, and then it was basically okay. Yeah, I would probably say closer to the 1 year mark, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea came up, and then, like, I've told the story a few times now, but basically I went off and I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? I mean, I've played in bands since I've been 14 and played probably most of the clubs around Montreal, but this was going to be different, and I knew I was going to have to be doing the game at the same time. So I thought about everybody I knew, and I came back to Yoann Boudreau, he's basically the musical guy behind this. We recorded all this at his studio in Saint-Jean, which is Alchemic Audio. And so I was like, you know what? This would be great. Like, if this can work creatively, this would be awesome, because Yoann can take care of doing most of the music recording at his place. And when it comes time to record, I'll just shoot over there and, you know, record the vocals, and any guitar parts, I'll record it here at home and send it to him. So it was basically now, okay, on paper, this makes a lot of sense. Will it work creatively? And we sat down, and he sent me some riffs, and I had sent him, like, you know, some Priest and some Maiden. And I'm like, this is the vibe, you know, we're going for, like something like this. And I never thought in the process we'd kind of carve out our own sort of sound, because it's kind of funny, because what we did, it sounds original yet familiar, you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so we started with one song, and the first demo was Space Riders with No Names, and he sent me the riff, and I was like, wow, I really like this. So I was like, let me see what I could do with it, and I just sat down, and I mean, obviously, I used to gig and write a lot in I'll say the late '80s and early '90s, and just and then at one point you sort of go, okay, well, I'm hitting this fork in the road. I can either be a club musician for the rest of my life, or I can go and do something else. And I wanted to stay in audio, so I went into video games. And I never thought, 15 years or 20 years down the line, it would circle back. So we did this first track, and I wrote the lyrics and went to his place, recorded the melodies, and did all the backings and all that. And then we submitted it to JF, the creative director. I brought him into my office, and I sat down with him and put it on and blasted it really loud. Really wanted to try and sell him on it. Was hoping he would like it. And he loved it. And he was like, he couldn't believe that we had written this track. And,
Did you tell him it was someone else first though? Before you're
I
like,
didn't
hey,
tell
I
him it
found
was
this.
me. I didn't tell him it
Okay.
was me singing it. I just
Nice.
said, okay, here's a demo. Here's a track. And he was like, fuck, it's really cool. And he's like, and then he said to me, he goes, who's singing? And and he was like, no way. Because it doesn't really sound like me from what I was told. And he just kept going, I can't believe this is you. And I was like, yeah. And I said, look, I just wanted to sing it so, you have an idea of the song. I'm going to find another singer. I'm going to get some. And he was like, no. You're not getting anybody. You're going to do it. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll do it. And I never thought in one sense, it's like, okay, well, you just, signed your sort of life away saying, I'm going to deliver a full album while I deliver the game over the next 2-3 years. But, one song at a time, we just kept writing and recording. We would finish a song, we'd submit it. And funnily enough, it was like 10 for 10. Like every song, we never had one rejected. Every one we put in, they were like, because it all had to be approved by Marvel and, lyrically and everything. And of course, internally, before it even went there, JF would have to sort of sign off and be like, yeah, this fits. So
What?
yeah, 10 for 10.
Wow, man. And it's not just like, oh, here's a song kind of like buried in the game. You might miss it. It's like, no, the game kind of begins. You hear a Starlord
there.
track playing. You see a Starlord cassette
Yeah.
inside with lyrics and pictures and everything. And I'm like, when did you know that they were going to put this much attention to detail based on this sham band?
I have no idea. It just seemed like maybe, I think once JF heard what we were delivering from a quality level, and he was like, holy crap, like this is really good. Like, I mean, JF is the band, he's probably biggest fan as far as, he listened to it all the time, and he was really involved in the whole project from beginning to end, and he was probably the biggest champion behind it. So he was he was always, like I said, he was always pushing it. He was always like, just keep going for it. And then at one point we started seeing, oh, they're going to make the cassette jacket. And I was like, oh, wow, cool. And then he's asking me, like, you have any old photos of you? And so that's a photo of me in there without the beard in my, like, I think I'm like 25 or something. And he's like, oh, yeah, we're going to put that in there. And then the Rolling Stone, then he turned to me and he's like, hey, it'd be awesome if we could, like, we want to put a magazine because we want to keep giving weight to the whole Starlord and the band and the name. And he goes, so we want to have an article about the band. And he goes, we'd like to try and get Rolling Stone. So I said, yeah. I said, look, let me see what I can do. And I have one of the guy who helped us for all our music licensing, Randy Eckhart. I reached out to him and he's like, yeah, Randy seems to just know everybody. And he's like, yeah. He goes, let me hook you up with somebody at Rolling Stone. And then, a million emails later, and we have something signed where Rolling Stone's like, yep, you can, here's our fonts and you can put our magazine in your game. And then we went one further and we're like, well, what are the odds of us getting one of your writers to write the review and write an article? And they were like, okay, and again, 100 emails back and forth, contracts, legal people. And then next thing you know, I get an email from the writer, and he's like, hey, here's the questions. And then I answer all the questions and write them out. And then it all goes to get cleaned up and edited from what I wrote and made, 14 and over. So so then they put that, and they actually made the magazine. It just felt like, it's like you said, it was like, they're going to do the jacket. And you're like, oh, cool, nice. And then it's like, oh yeah, they want to do a magazine article. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, they want Rolling Stone. Oh, okay. Like it just kept going and going where I was like, and then the funniest was when they came back and they said, what about a video? And I was like, what, are you guys serious? And then the big problem was they were right away. They're like, well, the whole point is we'd like to sell the video like it's a lost gem that we found somewhere from the 80s. And obviously I don't look like I'm, I don't have the same look I did in the 80s. So we were like, well, we could get around that. I kept saying to them, obviously I wanted to do the video. I'm like, well, lighting and filters and, and we'll all wear sunglasses so you don't really see our face. And, we'll try. And they said, like, even to the director, like, try and shoot as least amount of their visuals and all that. But in the end,
it's all hair. It's all hair and head banging.
Yeah, exactly. So in the end, and funny enough, I mean, the band in the Starlord sense is basically myself and Johan. But then when this came about, we were like, oh, well, now we actually have to put a band together. And then Johan reached out to a drummer he knew, and I'd seen videos of the guy playing, and he's a monster, is Martin Plante. And then I had no idea for a bass player. I was like, I don't, I even said to Johan, I'm like, do you know anybody who's kind of got like long hair or tattoos or just has like that rock 80s sort of look? And he was like, no, I don't. He's like, I know tons of bass players, but they won't fit in with that look. And then, funny enough, I knew another Montreal musician, Steve Creed, who went to the same high school as me. And I was like, and it's funny, like I would see all these people I know, musicians, chiming in on his stuff. So his stuff would pop up on my feed. And I'm like, how is it everybody I know knows Steve and I don't know Steve, And I literally like pinged a friend of mine and I was like, can you hook me up with this guy? I need a number. And I reached out to him. I was like, hey, you don't know me. We know all the same people. I played with these guys. He's like, oh yeah, I know them. And I'm like, what are you doing in a week? I need a bass player for a video. Do you want to come down? And he was like, yeah. And I sent him the song. He learned it. And he came down and that's how that came together. Like really, again, like just following what you were saying, it's like it starts with the cassette and then it becomes, the Rolling Stone mag, and now it's a video. And then they were getting a company to do the animated part and they made a digital comic, which
oh my god.
Yeah,
I didn't even know all this. I just finished the game the other day. I had no idea this whole Starlord world exists.
Oh really? So you hadn't seen the video or anything?
No, Steve mentioned he was in a video. I'm like, that's cute. But I didn't realize it was like the Starlord music video. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when it starts out with that Marvel title. Like, you just kind of gasp a little bit inside, like, and then, But, so Steve came and he was a part of that. And we had a lot of fun, man. It was a really fun day. It was a really good time. And like I said, there's, the video, like the magazine, all kinds of stuff. It just kept kind of going and going.
All right, so I noticed about this game, and what's really cool if you look in all the credits is that a lot of metal singers are featured in this game as aliens and characters. Can you tell me a little bit about the decision to come to that and who's in the game and what do they do?
Sure. So when I was looking at how were we going to do all the aliens and the voices, because we had this great visual palette to work with, I got introduced to a local metal singer, Sébastien Curating, and he sings. I forget the name of his band. Damn it, Necrotic Mutation.
Okay, great. So
he's the singer for that.
What? How do you say it?
Necrotic, like necro, as in like necrotic mutation. Yeah.
Necrotic Mutation. Very cool. Okay.
Yeah. So Sébastien has a group of local death metal singers from Montreal, and he's actually expanded his repertoire, like his cast of talent, to the world now. And so I met him and I told him, I said, look, man, I want to do this game, and I got him to do the NDA. And then I said, so here's the aliens, and I said, I want us to work together and I want to create the languages. I want this to feel kind of like Star Wars, So he totally got it. We clicked right away, and we spent a year. Like, he would send me stuff, and it was great. Like, when you sync well with somebody, like I'd be like, oh, like, you know, this film, like The Arrival, like this part here. And he'd be like, oh, yeah, or like this. And we were just constantly riffing on movie references. But we ended up narrowing down the sort of style of all the monsters and all the aliens we wanted. And then Sebastien, with his group, assigned all those roles. And it was great. Like, it's all these Montreal singers who are in like these, you know, fairly well-known death metal bands, and some singers from abroad, like Elisa from Arch Enemy. And also we had Vicky Sarakis from The Agonist.
Yeah.
And like I said, a ton of Montreal acts, but they all came in and they're able to do stuff with their voices that normal actors either can't do or maybe don't want to do, because it's very taxing on their voice. Whereas these guys, you know, gargle with razor blades in the morning and they're fine. So they'll come in and they'll do these type of crazy voices and give you all the stuff you need, that then I would give it to our sound designers and they would have that as a source material. And then he would take the guy's animal sounds and combine them, let's say, with a bear or something, or a walrus, and merge them all together to create our creatures. So it was really cool. Like, the game really screams rock and roll, from the death metal singers doing the creatures, to the Starlord album, the audio director doing a record album, to all the licensed music in the game, to the characters in the game, to Starlord and his leather jacket, young Peter Quill. I mean, like I said, I couldn't have landed on a better bullseye if I tried, you know.
Yeah, young Peter Quill's mullet is something is pretty amazing. But I just want to mention, Elisa and my wife are chums, and Elisa had mentioned she was in a video game and to her when I was playing it. So that was kind of funny. Considering there's a lot of characters in this game, can you tell me and the audience some of the characters that Elisa had played in it? Because I believe she played a few, if I'm not correct.
She's definitely one of the Hellraisers, because we have a small pool of actors that do all the enemy NPCs. So she's one of the enemy Hellraisers. But in Nowhere, she's also the food vendor that you can buy, you know. You want to buy foom pies, and she'll sell you all this type of stuff. She's got an amazing voice.
Hey there.
Look at you, barely skin and bones, moping your way through the market. Better have a hot bite, it'll make you feel better. So, you hungry or what?
And then later on, so funny story, with all the death metal singers, when they would come in, I would always, at the end of their session, I'd say, look, for 2 minutes, I'm just going to hit record. Go wild, give me every crazy sound and voice you could do. And then what I would do with this is put them all in a folder on the network for the sound designers. And I would say, listen, when you're populating the maps and you know, these are all alien planets, so go in here and fish for weird little sounds that you can put as, you know, creatures, wildlife that are part of the planet for the ambience. So they'd be like, oh, great. So towards the really late, like I'm talking like the game, we were like, okay, you're locked out October 14th. I would say October 1st. I'm like still reviewing the game, and I'm playing this part where when Starlord leaves and you see the tentacled creature and he's like, yeah, I'll call you, and he's kissing her tentacles. It's a great scene. I always thought it was hilarious. But I was like, you know, and maybe to be fair, at this point you're looking for stuff to do, because you're like, it's my last 2 weeks, I got to put everything in. So I was like, I really wish there was an interaction, and I wish the alien was saying something back to Starlord. So I went fishing in that same folder, and I remember Elisa doing something cool that she showed us that she did as a warm-up, where she's gargling with water but yet producing sound. Okay. And sure enough, I went in and I found it, and I was like, that's it, that's the sound. And I went back and I reached out to my guy, and I'm like, I want you to put this in that little scene when the tentacles are moving and he says his line, I want to hear the creature, and it's going to make it more dynamic, because now we have an interaction where otherwise it's just him talking to moving tentacles, and it feels static to me.
No, of course I will. I'll call you.
So that's Elisa as well, doing her warm-up exercises there. And
wow,
Vicky's one of the Hellraisers when you're walking into Lady Hellbender, and she's like, you know, sort of giving you the final warnings of like, you know, behave yourself, or the lady will throw you out, you know, with that heavy, cool voice.
Follow me and pay attention. You will not approach Lady Hellbender's throne. If she chooses to approach you, you will remain still. No erratic movements.
Matt McGackie, he's part of Cryptopsy.
I know Matt.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Matt. Oh
Yeah.
Matt.
He does the Box and Beer podcast.
I was one of those jerks that, not jerks, but when Matt started singing the way he would, that would give him a career. I was like, Matt, your voice is so pretty. Why are you doing all the raptor sounds? I was like that with Elisa too, back when she was a teenager. She has this beautiful natural singing voice.
He's amazing.
And then, you know, when she had the voice that, you know, gave her a career as well, I was just like, why aren't you singing all pretty anymore? Yeah.
You don't come to the choir anymore. How come?
I know. And like, I'm so glad that people don't listen to me. It's great.
They're amazing singers, though. Amazing people. Great people to work with. Like beautiful humans, as I like to say. You know?
Do you know when that timeline was supposed to be, where, you know, Peter Quill's last day on Earth? Like, obviously Nintendo's the thing. This is the thing. Like, do you know like what year per se it must have been? I'm assuming 88, 89.
That's what I was gonna guess. My guess would have been 88, 89.
Yeah.
I know they never, like, it was a specific thing that we didn't want to date it.
No,
we
of
didn't
course
want
not.
to give a specific date, because then everything comes, you know how the internet is, and we would have just been called out on a million things. So
they get pretty precious. Yeah.
To save that, we just said, let's go with the late 80s, and we'll just say somewhere in the 80s, you know, which gives us a whole decade to play with.
Yeah, and Goldbergs do that all the time, that show. They're like, it was 1980 something. But then when they start making things about the 90s, which are times I can remember, I'm like, hey, wait a second.
That's not right.
I know, but oh God, the 90s, one of the most transformative decades ever. Because when you think everybody was into MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice like in 91, but then by 92 and a half, like Nirvana came and killed hair metal and all this other stuff.
It killed everything.
It's crazy.
And you know what? It was good that it did it. I mean, and I'll be honest, like, I'm not the hugest Nirvana fan. You know, I can respect them for, you know, the what they did and how they kind of kicked that movement off. But there was so many other bands that it could have been them, you know, whether it was Soundgarden or Mother Love Bone or all these other, Alice in Chains. Like, there was so many bands that were just percolating, ready to pop. But you know what? It was good. It was the first time that, because I was one of those hair metal guys gigging at the time, and all of a sudden I was like, okay, we got to change our whole sound. We got to, you know, get flannel shirts, and we got, you know, which sadly enough, looking back, is like the worst thing you can do. It's the real way is just stick to your guns and be yourself, and at some point, the roulette wheel will fall on you, and you will be cool, you know, which is what these bands did. But what happened, unfortunately, is it's amazing. The industry, the record industry, feeds on itself. So, you know, Bon Jovi breaks big, Def Leppard breaks big, the sort of hair metal, and now everybody who's got hair and who can write a song or a ballad is getting signed. So what happens, it dilutes the market, whereas now you have all these sort of bands that really shouldn't be there, but because every record label is like, I want to hit it big with the next Bon Jovi, so I'll sign 10 Bon Jovi lookalikes, except this time Bon Jovi's got black hair, or in this one he's platinum. Oh, you don't like that? Yet we got this one here, and they're just hoping for one to stick.
We got Bon Jovi, we got Ron Jovi, we got Ben Jevi, we got all the selection.
Yeah, we got John Bovey, we got everything you need, everything. So what happens is, you know, the market just became so crap at some point where you just had these bands and you're like how are these guys getting signed, you know?
Yeah.
And then grunge came in, which kind of cleaned house of any of the sort of fat that hair metal had picked up.
I know, but then grunge got a bunch of fat too. Like,
but it's the exact. That's what I was going to say. Is the cycle repeated? Is then it was like anybody who had that angst and that voice and the flannel. It's like, all right, now we want, you know, the hair guys are gone. Now we have a new sort of template. It's the flannel and the Doc Martens and this, and that's the look. And we sign everybody who sings and sounds like that.
Anyway, getting back to Starlord. first of all, that's rad, but not just Starlord music is great in this game. I mean, all the entirety of the game. The announcement trailer had kickstart my heart, man. And you, if you want to feel good about anything you're doing, whether if it's dog walking or washing the dishes or doing anything, you put on Kickstart My Heart, and it is the best dog walk ever.
It is.
So seeing the Guardians of the Galaxy rock out to Motley Crue, I feel like I was seen, you know, and then I start playing the game and I hear really, really cool tracks. First of all, like Where Eagles Dare, Iron Maiden, White Wedding, Billy Idol. And something that really knocked me out was, as much as all that happens, you still get Tainted Love. You still get some really cool 80s tracks. But I gotta say, it's like it was like listening to my personal playlist in a video game that I'm discovering. So that was really nice. But I feel like we're kindred spirits in a musical sense. Tell me about your selection of these songs. Why go after these amazing anthems, including, I mean, come on, that Kiss song, especially at the end of the game when he's strutting. Vinnie Vincent era. Oh, man.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I am like one of the biggest Kiss fans you'll meet. I mean, it's probably the reason I picked up a guitar and played music, and I still love them to this day. But yeah, I never thought we were going to get them. I'll be honest. I was like, I'm going to reach for it, but and to be fair, I should have been like, hey, Kiss will do anything for $1. So let's be serious, like, why were you even questioning this? But anyway, I was happy to get that for the list. I'll be honest, man. I honestly really went from my head, and like I spent all of the 80s, like, going around with a Walkman on 24/7, and it was either, cassettes, and then the batteries would get low and you couldn't get your cassettes, so you'd switch to Show 'em, and you'd listen to the radio. And you'd hear, and when you'd be listening to the radio, you'd be like, come on, please give me an Aussie song, and they'd play an Aussie song, and then next thing you're getting like Madness in Our House in the Middle of Our Street. So you go, no, whereas now, like, I like all of this stuff now, and like now it's all got that great nostalgia filter, and I'm like, why were you so hesitant and resistant? But it's like I tell people, back then, there was very click sort of, you wore the leather jacket with Motorhead. Well, then you listened to this music, and you couldn't walk into your Motorhead buddies and start going, hey, that new Madness song is really cool. And they'd just be like, that's it for him then. And, ride you out on a rail. Whereas, now you get older and, you hang out with musicians and people, and you open yourself up to everything, and you realize there's so much good music out there,
You also realize, like, putting those kind of mental breaks on yourself of what you were allowed to listen to prevents us from becoming better songwriters. Because all the best songwriters ever, like, the Clash didn't say, hey, we're punk, we're only going to listen to punk, there's nothing we're going to listen to except punk. No, they were reaching everywhere. Pop music, reggae music.
And for me, like, it was exactly it. Like, sitting there, and I knew, I mean, listen, let's be honest. I could have filled that list in probably an hour with all my own personal rock metal hits. But I'm like, I'm not making this game for me. I'm making it for everyone, and I want to have as many people get on board as possible. And of course, still songs had to fit in that sort of Guardians template. So yeah, I made sure, like, a lot of the new wave stuff that I remembered guiltily, is that the right word? Like, having guilty pleasures of, like, while delivering the Gazette in the morning, going like, Tainted Love would come on, and I'd be like, it's a good song. It's 6 a.m. Nobody can see me, like, enjoying and bopping my head. I'm safe, And I would love these type of songs, So it was great to be able to reach back and now bring them out going, no, this is a great song. Like, this deserves to be, celebrated on the playlist. Just like Gary Newman's Cars. Like, I remember when that came out, I loved it. I thought it was so cool. I got memories of, like, going to the Palladium and roller skating. The freaking, Gary Newman's Cars would come on. You'd be like, this is awesome. So, I mean, there was a lot of personal nostalgia that went in, but I did try and cover a good spectrum and be like, let's get some, like, new wave was huge in the 80s. I mean, you can't ignore it. It was everywhere, So I was like, now I can look back at, like, Iran and Flock of Seagulls, and I'm like, what a great song, what a great band, But back then, all you'd see is the hair and the swoop, and you're sort of like, nah, like this, it doesn't fit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I got some older friends who are just like, hey, because I love Bon Jovi. I love singing like Bon Jovi. I just let karaoke, that's my go-to, even though
Yeah.
it's a little out of my range. I could still hold my own in this mid-tone. And, they're like, yeah, no, back in the day, I couldn't stand it. Because when something's popular and someone's telling you, this is new, this is great, there's almost this reluctance of, as a general listener of heavy metal, to be like, no, it isn't.
Yeah.
No. And when it's force fit to you, it's not fun. But then later on, when it's in a box and you pick it out because you choose to, yeah, exactly. It's a little different.
I will not let the media tell me what I like. I will decide what I like,
I felt that way about all those boy bands. Just like back in the day, I just walked around with my fingers on my ear, and I'm just like, nowadays I'm like, yeah, Backstreet is back. All right, cool.
That's right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I feel the exact same way. I mean, I just watched This Is the End with my daughter because I was like,
nice.
She's 15, and I was like, she's now, like, I gotta accept that she's 15, and I'm like, she can handle this type of humor and that. So we were watching it, and right at the end when they go into the big, Backstreet's back, all right, and she's like, no way. She looks at me, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's happening, and we just had a big laugh, and that's one of the reasons why I went with New Kids on the Block. I was like, they were,
that was great.
I mean, again, I thought that had to be there. I was like, because that kind of kicked off that sort of 90s boy band thing, I mean, there was probably plenty of examples of other boy bands, 70s, 80s, and one could argue even bands like Bay City Rollers were somewhat of a bit of maybe a boy band, or, the Jackson 5. I don't know, whatever. I'm not into labels, but they were, to me, the first sort of that band of like 5 guys with, that I hadn't seen in a long time, who had the choreographed dance moves and, the slick hairdos, and you're like, okay, this is going to be a thing. Like, I can see this catching,
Saw the writing on the wall. Do you think that the success of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie and what it did to the music within it and how relevant it made all those songs to a new generation of kids, do you think that actually really helped all these bands sign on to this? Because they realized, oh, dude, there are 11-year-olds rocking out to Come and Get Your Love. And that would not have happened had it not been for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, we still had some artists that just turned us down, whether for, I mean, it never made me angry. It would disappoint me because I'd want the song in the game, and I would think this is such a good song for the game. But
how did Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons give you the thumbs up and other people give you the thumbs down?
Oh, we got turned. No, but I get it. Like, look, maybe for some people, they're like, well, I don't want my music associated with a video game, and I'm not into video games, or, maybe they have a bad impression of video games. Listen, they wrote their song. They get to pick where it gets used. I have no issue with that. To me, I just look at it like, you kind of lost out. You could have been part of this awesome soundtrack, but I don't think they're losing sleep over it, to be honest. But at the end of the day, I was really happy that I was like you, man. I was like, there's no way we're gonna get this, and then it's like, yeah, they're in, and I'm like, and my music licensor Randy would always tell me, he goes, look, man, a lot of these guys, like, they're done, like, they're just sitting around. He goes, this is like, hey, do you want a free check? And it's sort of like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
He goes, he goes, a lot of these guys are, probably up around 70 now, late 60s. So, I mean, they're not touring anymore. They're not gigging. So royalties and licensing is probably the main income and how they generate. So
with the pandemic especially, there must have just been like, ooh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was mentioning to the cast, it's an amazing thing that they started that journey all way before the pandemic, all being able to record their voices in the same room, develop that chemistry. And with that chemistry, there's this very unique part in the game where you have a huddle.
Yeah.
And which emphasizes the importance of music too. It's not like they just randomly play music like your average wrestling game, even though I really like that. Things could be going good or bad, but if you push a certain buttons at a certain time, Peter says, all right, everyone huddle up, and they all come to you, and they are counting on you to say those words to make them, to make the battle go to the next level. And with that, that's when these songs play. So not only do you have the choice of this button or this button to either make them walk away rolling their eyes or walk away with a battle cry that you've never known. And then the music kicks in, and I gotta say, hearing Kickstart by Heart, I don't remember what battle it was, but it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. It was like 3 pots of coffee all at once. I was like, oh yeah.
I hear you, man.
I love the way they used music. When did you first kind of see how this game was coming together, and how important your musical choices were, and how relieved you were that you picked them?
I'll be honest. So the huddle kind of came about pretty early on, and I had seen like JF had already told me, like I had seen the visual of like the Guardians kind of in that rugby scrum in first person, and I was like, oh, that's cool. What is that? And I think one of the art directors, or maybe it was JF, and just started saying, oh well, we're thinking about having this huddle feature of if things are going bad, and it's like a Hail Mary pass, and you can call them in, and sort of like, the way we interpreted at the end of the first movie where they have like, the dance off dude with Ronan, and they go into this almost like, I don't know, weird dimensional sort of thing. So we kind of looked at it that way. And JF had this idea of like, he wanted to have that speech because he felt, and rightfully, that, it helped reinforce, because we knew we were going to meet some resistance with the, what do you mean we can't play every Guardian, and it always makes me laugh because it's like, well, it took us 4 years to make this game with one Guardian. So if we have to make everything playable by every guy, it's like making 5 games, like
you're going to water down the quality of what you achieved.
It wouldn't have been as good. So to reinforce and to sort of keep bringing that to the player, that this is your team and you've put this together and you're kind of responsible, we brought in that speech thing. So then as a music audio guy, I mean, I'm always usually audio comes in at the end of the chain, right? Like everybody does their stuff and then audio kind of puts their pass on it. And I don't like being passive and sitting. Like I want to be aggressive and sort of like, how can I find new ways to bring audio up front in the line, and how can I get audio to be more aggressive in like sort of and get them into the part of the design process. So I knew this game was like, okay, this is the game where if there was ever a game where you should not get too much resistance for bringing audio ideas, this will be it, because this game lends itself to these type of ideas. So I remember sitting down and I had my audio software open, and I was just thinking, like what else can I do with the music? And I was, because we're paying for it, and you don't want to pay whatever money we paid for it, and then you use like 15 seconds in a cutscene, and then you're like, all right.
Good point.
Like to me, that's not a good use of the company's money, and it's not a good use of the song asset itself. So I wanted to like just wring that towel out and like get every drop that I could out of each song. So I grabbed some capture footage of combat, and we had like we were using, I think, some of the Guardians movie score as temp music, because I'm not sure if we had hired Richard on then, and if we had, then we were probably using some of his stuff. But I muted the track, and I just dragged, like, I don't remember what, it might have been like Hit Me With Your Best Shot or something, and I just dragged something in and I put it underneath, and right away, like, I was smiling, and I'm like, this really works, like, this is cool. And then I start thinking, I'm like, what other games have done this? And I was like, I don't know, probably someone, like, you're not that clever, and I'm trying to calm down, but I'm like, yeah, but this is really cool. And I'm like, I'm looking around like, who can I show this to? And then I'm like, maybe it's too soon. Wait, flush it out, and so I do a few things, and then I kind of grab JF, and I'm like, what do you think? And he watches it, and he's like, that's really cool. But then by then I had about 6 other licensed tracks all loaded underneath. So I would mute that one, and I'm like, now check it with this one. And I'd put something, and he'd smile. And so you could see that there was a strong reaction. And then once we started having play tests, like the huddle was always coming back as like top memorable, in the top 3 of memorable stuff. So we knew like we had something that was promising, and now it was up to us to kind of, carve it out and make it as lean and ready for the player as possible over the next few years, which I think we did. I mean, it's funny, right up until the end, we kept sort of tweaking it where we were like, how can we make it feel more fluid and more, and for me, again, like, I think it was probably in like June and we shipped in August, where I was saying to Richard, our composer, I was like, what do you think about putting a music loop during the huddle? And I said, and he's like, well, what were you thinking? And I said, I don't know, but I said something very stadium rock, anthem like. And I said, it needs to feel like rallying right before, because I said, right now it's like we're almost like this, and then you jump like this into the licensed track. And I said, if we could get an arch instead of a straight line, I said, I think this would hit better, And I said, and we were like, okay. And he goes, and I said, I don't know, something would, and I gave him, like, I think I sent him something off of Kiss Destroyer. I know, Kiss Alive 1, which has this really cool, like, you hear the crowd, but it's all being phased and flanged, and there's like drums going. And I always, like, I know that album, like, I know my own hand, like, that well. And I was like, I sent them this link, and I'm like, listen to this, something, not that, but, and 2 days later, he sends me this great track that's got like the guitar rock chords and like the big build up with the drums, and I'm like, this is brilliant. I was like, this is amazing, and we put it in, and it was so late, but I was like, to JF, what do you think? And he's like, I like it. He goes, it's really cool. So I was like, all right, bam, and it's just amazing how, like, you're constantly iterating, and then at the end, when I know it's time to close shop, that's when I go into full panic mode, because I know if I have a brilliant idea, it's going to be almost impossible to get it in. So I'm like, okay, I think I did everything. I don't think there's anything left in the tank, but you're literally like waking up at 3 a.m. going, okay, is there anything else? Is there anything I forgot? Because it's now or never.
I'm realizing that in the movie, it's much more, in Guardians movies, it's much more like 70s R&B love songs. And this one, particularly in this game, it's metal and new wave. And I'm like, I think if you had the Guardians of the Galaxy movie songs, it would not work with Peter's jacket. I think Peter's jacket and his patch really set the tone of who he is and how all this music would work. Because I would kill for a Starlord jacket, first of all. I've worn jackets that look a lot like Starlord's.
I know, man. I know. Same here.
And oh my God, I just wish they would make patches. I mean, and before we get to fake I'm going to call them sham bands, which are bands made up just for movies. Tell me the story behind these Starlord t-shirts, because 2 of the cast members were wearing them the other day, and I am so jelly. I need some bread.
Honestly, I have no idea where we could get them. I mean, I get people poking me on Twitter sometimes, like, where can I get the merch,
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's because you guys are dangling them in front of everybody with all these interviews you're doing.
And just as a side note, I'm going to throw in, because I love your term there. You should coin it the sham bands.
Yeah.
So it's funny because Johan and I never really like we've known each other and we've seen each other play live. We've never worked together, and we did this, and we really enjoyed it so much that we want to keep writing and recording. So I don't know where it's going to go. Probably won't be under a name like Starlord, because that's obviously a Marvel property. But if one cool thing came out of it, it's that, finding somebody that you can write with and it works, like, as a musician, been doing this all my life, and you realize how hard it is to find that kind of chemistry, so
of course.
It's a lot of fun, and it's cool that we can sort of do this at our own pace, and there's no stress or pressure or anything. So yeah, like, sham, half sham, maybe a bit of reality.
There you go. Yeah, let's talk. Like, I know you were telling me that you're like the biggest Spinal Tap fan, and I gotta say, I think what makes the movie Spinal Tap work is that all the actors were playing completely straight, no matter what happened. They were always playing it straight with as much dignity as possible.
Yep.
But also the music, as funny as it was, there was really no like.
No.
Like, they played it. Those are legitimate songs.
Yeah.
Big Bottom's a great tune.
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge, yeah, exactly. Tell me about your history with Spinal Tap.
I think it's funny. Like, Spinal Tap is the Bible for any musician. The same way, I met somebody, and he's I forget the right word, but like sort of like a greenskeeper, like head caretaker for like a really renowned golf course. And he was telling me how everybody on the golf course, Caddyshack is their thing. So it's like, and the same way, like I play hockey, Slapshot is the hockey thing. Like, you know, there's a go-to for almost everything, you know, and Spinal Tap is the go-to for any musician. And, you know, every musician who's seen it has seen themselves in it at some point. So I love it just for, like you said, when you know that it's all off the top, it just adds a level of like, how amazing is this? You know, like they're so good together, those guys. And I mean, obviously they're monster talents and, you know, but it's an amazing, like you said, it's just everybody in it, from Rob Reiner to like all the little bit roles of, you know, and it's great. It's funny. Like you see, it's one of my favorite lines when the actor, it's Howard Hessman, who plays Johnny Fever in WKRP. He comes out as the manager, and the artist is Paul Shortino from Rough Cut, and I forget his name, something Duke. And they meet each other in the lobby, and they're like, you know, you're playing like the stadium here, and they're like, yeah, it's the stadium something, I don't know, you know, and like these guys just got canceled. And they're like, and you sold out, and they're like, yeah, and they're like, anyway, and like you can see, like they look at Spinal Tap. We'd love to stand around and talk, but we got to go outside and wait for the limo. So it's almost like we'd rather stand outside in the cold waiting for a limo than stand here and talk to you losers, which is it just makes you love them all the more, you know.
Absolutely. My favorite Spinal Tap anything was when they were on The Simpsons, just because all their lines kill, like every single one.
And even like the hello Springfield, like that's just perfect.
We've been in a lot of places, but no one rocks harder than Springfield.
It's the best. It's just the best.
And then also when they showed up in A Year and a Half in the Life of Metallica, it was like really fun where they're talking about, oh yeah, Metallica, yeah, when you you know, the Black Album. It's nice to know that we influenced you.
Oh, that was great. Well, listen, I knew a musician back in the day that, if you'll remember, there was a band late 80s, early 90s. I think they're from Montreal called Boot Sauce.
Okay.
And anyway, there was a big rock festival in Toronto, and Spinal Tap was playing. And my friend was part of the road crew, or he knew the guys in Boot Sauce, and they told him the story. But everybody in there is just like, oh my God, like Spinal Tap's coming. You know, like you would think it's like, you know, the Pope is showing up at some, you know, local church somewhere. And they said when they arrived in character, and they stayed in character the whole time. And they were literally in like the next dressing room.
Man, that's
awesome.
awesome.
And the guitar player like knocked on the door, and he said something to Nigel, and he's like, you know, could you sign my guitar or something? And he was like, I could, but I shan't. And he just walked off, and like, you know, like they just stayed in character the whole time. Like, no, you know, which I thought was hilarious. I was like, God, I would have loved to have seen that.
I guess just to go full circle with this Guardians of the Galaxy game, I'm sure you were thrilled just to see how it all turned out. I mean, you know, it's a lot of work. Sometimes it's hard to see a game or even play a game without seeing the work and, you know, seeing where all the changes are, the edits, all that. Have you played the game?
I'm playing it right now with, like, of course I played it ad nauseum right up until the end of October. Mm-hmm. And then I left it, and I got it for my wife and the kids and all that. So she was like, you know, she'd come into my studio in here, and I'd be working, and she'd be like, you know, she'd watch stuff, but bits and pieces, nothing in context. So now playing the game in context, like we were playing last night till like 1:30, and it's fun. Like for me, I'm looking at it, and I'm more impressed than anything. I'm just, you know, I'm looking at it, and I just feel really proud. Like it's the best thing I've ever worked on in my career, the best work that I feel I've ever done. And I feel like the team itself, like everybody just kind of managed to dial it up to 11. And, you know, you don't want to, when you see that around you, you don't want to be the guy handing in a 7 or an 8. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that you're, you know, everybody's kind of motivating each other. It's just like I said, it's one of those, you know, it's like the Starlord album or like something else where it's just the cosmos and the stars aligned. And I'm not going to lie, like the work is there. Like, people work their asses off on this, and I think the pandemic, while a mixed blessing, allowed people to put in more hours because you're working from home. So, you know, you could sit there and go, okay, I'll start at 8 and work till 7, and then maybe spend 2 hours with my family and have dinner, and then come back down from 9 and work till 11 or 12 and repeat. But you still felt you got that little bit of balance, you know, and it was good. I mean, it made a difference. So I think it benefited everyone in that. I think a lot of extra love and work went into the game, and yeah, man, like I said, I'm just thrilled to have been a part of it. I'm thoroughly impressed by everyone around me's their work. You know, when I look at it and we're playing, and I'm just like, man, such a great game. Such the actors, the writing, the art, the visuals, like just everything, you know. And again, the score from my our composer Richard Jakes, which, you know, not an easy thing again in a pandemic to get an orchestra recorded at Abbey Road, but he did it.
Abbey Road.
Yeah, the full score was recorded at Abbey Road during the pandemic. I was supposed to go to England for that recording, and no thanks, no.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I did go 2 months after. We went, my technical director and I went and spent 3 weeks in London in August. Those 3 beautiful weeks of heat and magic that were here in the summer, I missed all that. I was in a dark studio 14 hours a day mixing the game, but had a life experience. Like, it was so good. So yeah, it was a real rock and roll year for sure. But there was a lot of cool things that I got to be a part of, and I feel like I honestly, as a professional, like I grew, you know, just working on this and learning so much.
All right, well, I got to say right before we go that the Starlord music is so good that my wife came over and she says, "Oh man, this song is great. Like, what year is this from?" And I'm like,
so nice.
"I'm pretty sure it's from now." I'm pretty
That's
sure
amazing.
Starlord isn't a real band. But
I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get it some airplay to see if I could get it on the air anywhere, because it just feels like, you know.
You could call the band Space Lord if you really want to. If you really want to get around the lawyers.
Going forward, yeah, I'd have to do something. But the current one, I was like, I looked the other day on Spotify, and it's creeping up to 1 million plays, 0 to hero, and I was like, that's amazing. Like, from a guy who dreamed about, you know, one day getting to replace Paul Stanley or Ace Frehley in Kiss, and, you know, now I can sit here and go, hey, I got to do a record. And, you know, the comic thing was cool too, because as a huge Marvel fan, I know the only other band that did a comic is Kiss.
I gotta say, let's take a look at inside this comic book just for a second. I mean, look at these original stories, original art. Oh, this is so amazing. About how the band becomes literally zeros to heroes. You're a great singer. I love Starlord vocals, man. You really captured the time and the fun of that era, and also,
awesome. Thank you.
And also, you did it very well, and it wasn't abused with auto-tune. So, you know, it actually sounded like a track from that time.
I literally would sit in the studio as long as it took. If it took 4 or 6 hours, that's what it took.
There you go. That's great. These days, they would just have been like, put some auto-tune on it. You know, put some Kanye in there and, call it a day.
That's not from our era. We don't work that way. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much, Steve. This has been absolutely a blast. Not only talking about music, but talking about the game. And I am so happy it all worked out so well, because sometimes when they make superhero games, they can be great or they can be not. And this is possibly, in my opinion, one of the greatest superhero games. I wouldn't even call it a superhero game. I'd call it just a game about a family of misfits that happen to be in space and happen to be Marvel.
Well put. No, I agree with you, man. And it was really, like I said, it was real magic just working on it. It was hard work and all that, but now when you sit back and you see the results and people like yourself just saying, man, what a fun game. Like, you're like, wow, we did it. You know, like, we managed to, because that's what we set out to do, is make something fun. At the end of the day, that's what we set out to do. And for people to go, I had so much fun playing it, there's no better compliment, you know?
All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. This has been absolutely amazing. Steve, before we go, where can people find you on social media so they could give you the proper praise?
Grab me on Twitter, Sheprock99.
Absolutely awesome. So you can buy this right now from Mondo.com and check that out. It is, thank you. It is so awesome. I love this game so very much. When I played it, it just took me to emotional heights. If you want to know more about the Guardians of the Galaxy game, I have interviewed some of the directors. I've interviewed the narrative director, some of the writers, and Steve Szczepkowski. So what you gotta do, you gotta go to the Ryan Stick Show on YouTube, subscribe to that, watch the other episodes, watch a full cast interview. I'm gonna leave you right now, but thank you very much for watching me thus far, and thank you very much for Steve, Marvel, and everyone else for willing this into existence, because this is a damn good day. Thank you. I have long hair now, I can finally do this.